Welcome to Ivy Lane Home. My name is Lisa, and today's project is this beautiful Brandt Campaign style coffee table. So I got it at an estate sale for $48.75. You can see there's a little bit of damage on the top. I'm not sure what that is, a lot of scuffs and such, but all of the hardware is intact. It's beautiful, looks like original brass hardware. It is finished on all four sides. So I don't see any major issues with it. Obviously, you can see I'm going to have to take all of the hardware off. I do have some issues with that. But main thing, it's like the base. You can see it's all beat up. It is black. And so I'm just my plan is just to strip it down. It has that fly speck finish that was really popular back in the 70s. So it'll be interesting to see once I strip this down what the wood looks like underneath, because I actually don't mind the color. It's a pretty tone. I do like mid-tone, so it'll be interesting. Let's just strip it down and see what we find. First thing I need to do is take off all of the hardware. A lot of times these are just held on with pin nails, but the corner pieces are actually held on by tiny screws. So I'm going to take all of this off, and then I will take off the hardware. It's the hardware that's on the side. Obviously, it's just screwed in from the inside. So I'll remove that, and then I'll remove all of the corner brackets. They are held on by brad nails. I'll take all that off, and then I'll get them cleaned up. I'm going to start by just stripping everything down. So I'm using greenies. This is a non-toxic stripper. The thing with this is anytime a non-toxic, you just got to let it set a little bit longer than, more of your clean strip. And so I do like to use the non-toxic strippers. It just works better for my workflow and for where I am. I'm working in my garage, so I don't have like a ventilation system or anything. So I let it set for about an hour, hour and a half. And then I'm using my carbide scraper to scrape it back. And it came off really good. You can see I was able to get down to raw. So sometimes strippers will just kind of take off the top layer, like maybe the poly, but this took me all the way down to raw and very easily. So my process is I use my carbide scraper kind of like you would a putty knife. So I'm not certain areas I did have to apply a little bit more pressure. I do like this one. It's ergonomic, so you can kind of put your hand on the top and apply even pressure, because with the carbide scraper, you want to make sure that you're not tilting it to the right or to the left, because that can gouge the wood. So I have to be really careful. I think this design helps me not to gouge the wood. So once I scrape off as much as I can, then I'm going to use acetone and get off some more. You can see there's some areas there that were a little bit more stubborn, so that acetone will eat through it and get all of that off. Then I'll come in with some paper towels, more acetone, some 2/0 steel wool. I'm trying to get as much of that finish off as possible, because the more finish I get off, the less sanding I have to do later. My final step is I'm going to use some of the afterwash that they have with greenies. I'm just going to spray it on. Then I'll use a little scrub brush. This is kind of a new little step I'm doing, just to kind of get off a little bit more, make sure that it's really as clean as possible. And then I'll do a final clean, and then I'll wipe that off with some paper towels. Now I'm ready for the sanding process. There wasn't much finish left. It came off great. So I'm just going to start with 120, dust that off, then I'll do 180. And at that point, I'll pause until I decide how I want to finish it. After the sanding's done, I'm going to clean it off with a 50-50 mixture of denatured alcohol and water. That just makes sure I've got everything off. I was sent this mini detail sandpaper kit to try out, so let's check it out here. Here's the sanding block. You can see it's a nice long rectangle. It has a hook and loop feature so that you can just attach the sandpaper, comes on and off. And then look at all of this sandpaper. So let's look at this. It starts at 60 grit. There's 10 in each grit. So there's 60, 80, 100, 120 grit, 150, 180, 220, 320, and 400. So let's try it out. I'm sanding this small area right here, and you have to be really careful with normal sandpaper because you don't want to go against the grain. So this is going to be perfect to sand this little area right here. So I've already stripped it. So I'm going to just start with 80 because there's not much left on it. So I'll start with 80. You can see it attaches very easily. Helps me to get right in there. And I don't have to worry about getting over here. That is awesome. So there's 80 grit. Then I'm going to go up to 120. And then I will go to 180. Perfect. And now it's ready for stain. They work great. Check them out. I'm going to use the micro sander to get into those details first. I'm going to go along the edge there. I find it easier to kind of a little bit more controlled. Then I'm going to go with 120. This area was really easy. Again, I got most of the finish off when I was stripping it, so I felt it was really easy just to go in with sandpaper. I'll use 120, try to just sand down. My goal on the side, I'm just sanding it down, getting it smooth. I'll do 120 and then I'll follow up with 180. Then I'm just going to repaint it. I'm using General Finishes milk paint and lamp black. Milk paint does not need to be primed. You could prime it, but you do not have to prime underneath milk paint. So again, I'm just freshening up the base. So I ended up doing 3 full coats. It dries pretty fast, but I love milk paint, especially the lamp black. It's one of my favorite blacks that I've used. Did have a little bit more finish on the top, so just to make it easier on myself, I'm going to use the 80 grit with my Festool sander and my dust collector. I'll do a nice pass there, and then I'll do the 120 and the 180. At this point, I used some water to get all of the sanding dust off and to see what I wanted to do. I put a poll up on Instagram to get some ideas of what color I should do, if I should clear coat it or if I should try to find a mid-tone brown. So I actually found a mid-tone. This is also through Greenies. They sent it to me. I've never used it before. It is a soy-based, water-based stain. And according to the packaging, you don't need any kind of preconditioner. So, sometimes you don't know with woods and if you need a conditioner. Now, this one is not one that's prone to blotchiness. So I'm just going to try it. I tried it on the side first to see if I liked it, but it went on really good. And so this is called Amazonia Bark. And this is, again, my first time using it, but I was really impressed. You simply wipe it on. You see I'm putting it on with a chip brush. I'm going to go in sections because a water-based seems to do better in sections. So I just did a little bit of section and then I wipe it back. And then this is the last part of the section. Fill it in and then I'll wipe it back, the excess, with some lint-free cloths. And you can see it's a beautiful mid-tone brown. Now, obviously, stains look different on all different kinds of wood. And so, but this one was a beautiful tone. So when I put the water on it, it had a bit of an orange tone. I feel like this stain has just a tiniest bit of gray in it that kind of provides some coolness that kind of tones down that orange. So if you have something like an orange or a red, you need something opposite. You need a cool tone to kind of cancel that out. So I feel like this particular one has a little bit of coolness to it that kind of knocks back that orange. So there's the before and there's the after. So I did a little scuff sand, and then I'm going to do another coat of the black. I ended up doing 3 full coats of the black. Next, I'm ready to clean and polish my hardware. So I always just put on some baking soda, and then I put some boiled water over that along with some vinegar. And then I just let it set for a few hours or overnight, and then I'll come back and polish it. To polish it, I'll use some Barkeeper's Friend and some 4/0 steel wool. I'm using the powder. I do feel like the powder provides a little bit more friction, so it helps kind of get off some of that tarnish. You can also just use the liquid as well. So there's the before and the after on that. They polished up really nicely, and so after they polish, I'm going to seal them with the lacquer for brass, and that'll really slow down the tarnishing process. But 2 of them didn't look so good after I cleaned them. So I decided I needed to jazz those up just a little bit. I'm going to use some decor wax on those. And so this is in gold, and this is self-sealing. So I don't want to like overdo it because I don't want them to look very different than the other brass. So I'm just going to apply it, and then I'll come back with the rag and kind of buff it out. And again, they'll dry down. It does not need to be sealed. It's a wax. It'll self-seal in 30 days. Now I'm ready to seal it. I'm going to use Behr's polyurethane in matte. I'm going to strain my top coat, and I'm using my Wagner Erlex 5700. I'll do a test to see if I like the spray pattern, and then I will just go in and do a coat. Now this one, you can typically recoat within an hour, but depending on your weather, sometimes it takes a little bit longer to dry. It was a bit humid in my area when I was painting this, so I waited 2 hours before I did another coat. And so in between coats, I'll just sand it back with about 400, a nice little sanding pad, dust it off, do another coat. Ended up doing 2 coats on the body. I actually did 4 coats on the top. Now I'm ready to reattach all of my hardware. So when I do this, these are, because of the screws, they're flathead screws. So little things make a big difference. So I'm going to make sure when I put them on that I use a tiny screwdriver, and I make sure that the screws are all facing the same direction. So I know it's a little OCD, but hey, if I'm doing it, I might as well make sure that it's perfect. So either all vertical or all horizontal. So I went with all horizontal because I think that looks good. My drawers were in really good shape, but I am going to use this Artisan wood balm. This is by Arlington Woodworks. I've been using it lately, and it just has 3 ingredients, veteran-owned company. I love this product. You can see how it's just reviving those drawers. My last step I like to do is I'm just using a little paper bag, and I'm going over the finish and just kind of knocking off any kind of dust nibs that might have gotten in there while it was drying. I had one little dust nib that wouldn't come out, so I'm using a wet sandpaper, applying just a little bit of water, and I'm just going over it very gently just to kind of knock out that little piece of dust. Well, let's look back at the before. This was a pretty quick little flip. I wasn't sure, with it if it would strip nicely or not. Sometimes you just never know what you're going to find underneath the finish. Sometimes there's contaminants in it and it won't strip correctly. Like that black, I didn't know what that was. So sometimes you're just like, oh gosh, what am I going to find underneath here? But, overall, it was actually pretty easy, and I needed an easy one after the last couple ones that I've been working on. So it was pretty straightforward. Stripped it all down, cleaned all the hardware, and so after all of that, here is the finished product. What do you think? Do you like this wood tone? I do. Look at how beautiful it is. Just getting rid of that fly speck finish for one, updated it tremendously. I mean, it's such a beautiful tone. I think that Amazonian bark was the perfect shade for this particular piece. I'm loving it. And you see that subtle sheen with the matte. I love it too. The Rouse Hardware cleaned up so beautifully. Obviously, those two I had to do a little bit of the gold wax on, but they look great. I'm just really pleased overall. I think the midtones and the darks are really having a moment. I think they're timeless, but I do think these midtones are having a moment right now. I ended up listing it for $650. Honestly, I couldn't find anything that was just like it. And so, I think it's a very fair price considering the quality that it is. It's probably actually underpriced, but I think it's a fair price, especially considering that it has all of the storage in it. So I'll update you on the post tab and let you know what I end up selling it for. Did you like this tone, or do you think I should have gone lighter or darker? You'll have to tell me in the comments. Thanks so much for watching.